Some accents widely spoken in the southeast of England are the direct result of two accents blending together. And this has been the case with the accent which is the subject of this video, the Estuary English accent. It falls somewhere between traditional East End Cockney and RP. To be clear, this is not an accent from London, more rather an accent from surrounding areas that's made its way into London. But having said that, it's not difficult to find someone who's a Londoner that has this accent. Now, in this video, we'll discuss the accent's origins and some key characteristics of this accent. So, Estuary English, as it's known today, began to develop after World War II, when many Londoners left London for surrounding counties like Surrey, Kent, and Essex. Now, this migration spread Cockney and other London accents to surrounding counties. It began to blend with local accents and mainly RP to create what would then become Estuary English. In addition, this migration combined with urban expansion and social mobility began to shape this new accent. An accent which, as alluded to previously, blends traditional Cockney features with softer, more neutral tones found in RP. So, what are some key characteristics of this accent? Before getting to that, if you're liking this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now, this is an interesting accent because there aren't really any hard and fast rules. It really depends on the speaker in question. But from my observations of colleagues, neighbors, and YouTubers that have an estuary accent, here are 4 key characteristics of this accent. Firstly, the L in the middle of a word can be pronounced with a W sound. So for example, the word walk will become walk, walk, I'm going for a walk. Secondly, you may or may not hear the dropping of a T in the middle of a word. So you may hear the word lighter or lighter. Really depends on the speaker in question. Third, again, you may or may not hear the H being dropped at the beginning of a word. This really depends on the speaker in question. So a word like house can become ass, or a word like here can become ear, or a word like how can become ow. Again, this really depends on the speaker in question. You can see the similarities being drawn between Estuary English and Cockney, and that's because it borrows some language and some pronunciation from Cockney. Lastly, again, similar to Cockney, the T at the beginning of a word can sometimes be pronounced with a CH sound. So for example, Tuesday will become Tuesday, or YouTube will become YouTube. I personally say YouTube as well, even though I don't have an Estuary English accent. So now that we understand some key characteristics of this accent, let's listen to some Estuary English speakers speaking.
Yeah, I've never had a response like it. And I don't just mean the size of the response, because that's a reflection of how big Netflix are at the moment, 150 million subscribers. It's the intensity of the response that I've never had. People tweeting and writing to me, my agent, like long letters, and people coming up to me on the street. I never realised how many people were grieving.
I loved school. I really loved school. It was like a glorified youth club. I had nothing to offer at school. I didn't learn much about myself at school. Didn't feel compelled to excel or put extra effort into any class at school. But I like hanging out with my mates. I didn't bunk off because I was happy. It's like almost like the one hardest ingredient of school is like if the kid's happy, like you've got all the permission to do everything else. I was really happy, but nothing else happened. And it was a bit of a weird one as well because like when I was at school, like dyslexia was never really, you were either almost blind or not dyslexic.
Oh my gosh, love the Spice Girls. I actually was with Mel C on Sunday and she did a little ident on my phone for my kids and it's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. She does, "Stop right now, thank you very much." He's somebody with a human touch.
So, as you could hear in those examples, there are some estuary speakers who lean more towards RP and others that lean more towards traditional Cockney. Of course, you're also going to have some that are bang in the middle and or others that code switch depending on the situation. Another point to note is that as with all accents that you'll hear in London, Estuary English is not specific to any one area. You're going to hear it in pretty much every borough. You'll also be sure to hear it on the outskirts of the city, as well as in counties like Essex, Kent, and Surrey. Again, no one accent is specific to that area, so you may hear RP and or Cockney being spoken in those places as well. Now, this is an accent that's always been super interesting to me because in my experience, people who have it tend to do a lot of code switching. At work, I've come across more people than I can count who have this accent, and in the office, they tend to lean more towards RP or the formal end of estuary English, and after work, after a few drinks, they turn into a proper geezer, an old East End Cockney speaking like this, and it's like, damn John, I didn't know you can do that. Anyway, let me know your thoughts about this accent down in the comments below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.